it wasn't the culture that sucked as much as I was terrible at the language and I wasn't getting good at it.
Right.
I was terrible at my work that I was hired to do and I wasn't getting good at it. I was terrible at maintaining my relationships back home and they were just getting worse. Everything was sucking. Cool.
Thanks.
So, thanks for bringing that back up. So, in this book, Viktor Frankl puts forth the idea of logotherapy. So Viktor Frankl got this idea while he was in a concentration camp during World War II. So he saw how people cope differently psychologically with the horrific situation in the concentration camps. So everyone had a different coping mechanism. One person would focus on a book that they wanted to publish once they got out and that they needed to spread. Another person would focus on a child that was managed to escape Germany and the reunion would be made so much more sweeter by the separation that happened. For Viktor, it was keeping in mind his wife who was in a different concentration camp and how the Nazis couldn't take away that connection, that love between them, even though they were separated. He would be at roll call and seeing a beautiful sunrise, and he would think about how his wife could still share that with him. He also saw other coping mechanisms that weren't as successful. Some people would focus on a specific date that they believed for some reason the war would end. Once the day would pass, they would fall ill or commit suicide. So from that, he determined that ways of coping are not all created equal. And the best way to cope is to find meaning. So as far as he was concerned, there was 3 ways to find meaning in life. So the first one is to pursue a work. So pursue a great work, something that is greatly important to you. The second one is to love someone. And the third is to find meaning in unavoidable suffering.
Yeah.
And unavoidable. Anyway, someone else write that.
Can you hold this already?
I'm halfway through the word now, anyways. Oh God, the liar. So,
Sorry.
my handwriting's great, right, guys? So,
That's not legible.
so you might notice this is way different than what we just talked about in terms of positive psychology. So I want you guys to be able to hold both concepts in your brain at the same time and not try to pit one against the other, okay? This one is way more abstract, way less empirical. Positive psychology is like way more empirical than down there. You kind of have to choose which one approach or like works for you. Just like there's many different types of therapy, there's many different approaches to becoming well. So this is the one that I'm presenting today. So loving someone is trivial. We hear about that in like popular, pop culture all the time. You learn to understand someone, you grow together. So that's not that interesting. Man, I hope my girlfriend's watching this stream.
Hi, Jasmine.
Pursuing a great work is more subtle. It kind of goes into like growth mindset though. So notice like pursue. You're not focusing on like achievements or objectives, you're just enjoying the process. So that's more like growth mindset stuff, so I don't want to cover that much today. The one, we can talk about it afterwards. The one that's most interesting to me is finding meaning in unavoidable suffering. So life is filled with cruel randomness that you have no control over. That's kind of like a fact of life. You get hit by a car, you get cancer, you end up in a concentration camp. These things happen. And I'm not saying like, avoidable suffering should be avoided. If you step on a nail, don't try to find meaning in that. Take the nail out of your fucking foot. If these things that you're not in control of and that you can't pull yourself out of, you need to be able to find meaning in. So I'd like to describe how to do this with a couple of stories. So the first one is from Viktor Frankl's book, and then the other two are more personal. So, and Viktor Frankl, after he got out of concentration camp, he was a psychologist, And so one of his patients came to him saying that he was suffering from unbearable grief. He could get out of the bed in the morning and he could go to work, but when he got home, he couldn't do anything else but cry because he had lost a partner, and he felt like his life was meaningless without that partner. So he said to Viktor, like, what do I do? And Viktor asked him, well, let's think about an alternative. Like, what would happen if, like, your wife had died first instead? Or you had died first and your wife had survived you instead? And the man said, oh my goodness, oh, she would have been even worse than me. She wouldn't have been able to get out of bed. I just don't think she could have borne it. So Viktor posited that maybe that was the meaning he could find in this grief. There are many ways to deal with grief, but maybe his way could be to wake up every morning and when he felt that grief, know that he was carrying it for his wife. And because this negative feeling, instead of becoming all-encompassing, became something that he could carry, something that he could understand, he was able to go on with his life in a much better manner. So the second story that's a bit more personal is one of my friends was raped, unfortunately. So the story I'm telling you does not obviously encompass how everyone should deal with being raped, and obviously I'm telling someone else's story, so I'm really not in the position to dictate that, just so we're clear. I'm just telling one person's story just as an example of logotherapy. So, like most people who are a victim of rape, she became afraid of going outside and seeing her rapist again. And she was overcome with this fear, and she entered into a deep depression for about a month. Luckily, she was able to find a support group, and over time, she regained confidence. When I asked her how she did this, she said that although she still felt like her rape was unfair and unjust, and she still felt bad about it, she was able to find meaning in it in the way that it gave her a set of experiences that she could use to help other people. When she was in the support group, she was able to uplift the people around her. And as a nurse in training, she knew that she could use these tools that she had learned and this experience and what she learned from the experience to help other people. So those are some rather serious and heavy examples, and I started off with my rather trivial one of hating my life in Japan, so obviously it's not at the same level, but I'm still going to end with that anyways. So, when I was in Japan and everything sucked, I sucked at everything, and I couldn't see the point of getting better at it. But I eventually learned how to find meaning in suffering. I was terrible at work, and I did not get better, but I at least enjoyed the struggle and finding and learning the new things, even if they didn't immediately translate into any noticeable improvement. My Japanese was horrible, and that did not get better. However, I found meaning in the struggle and in the small amounts of recognition I could get when I finally managed to say a few words correctly. This isn't to say that I've been happy ever since, and that I never forgot the 3 rules and never should you. Obviously, I still fuck up a lot. But it's just to say that these 3 rules have been able to ground me when things have looked bleak and hopeless, and I was hoping to share them with you so that they could offer the same sort of comfort to you. So any questions? Yeah?
I'm not sure what this question is yet, but I'm thinking of to ask it. So when I read that book, and it had a big impact on me as well, the thing that struck me about the book, which was, has anyone here read The Man Searching for Meaning? Man Searching for Meaning by Viktor Frankl?
Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah. It's a great book, and it's small. The thing that struck me about that book that I didn't really know how to tango with was when he explains at the end, after the huge amount of suffering, people getting out, and in the example you quoted where it was like love for the meaning of for a loved one. Yeah. And then when they got out and they found that the loved one was dead, or any number of their other, good meanings, like people's lives were in complete and utter shambles. And they talk about the story where like non-mean-spirited people trampled flowers in the meadow just because they were angry, right? And it didn't come full circle for me because of the fact that though he argues that Adler says the search is for power and Freud is for pleasure and his is for meaning, in so many of those horrific scenarios, there was no answer, right? There was no good end. And okay, that's life, but that was also partly my interpretation. That was a bit lacking, and I suppose my question is, did you feel that way? Did you have like a perspective or opinion on that?
To me, it just seems like the cyclic nature. Eventually, you find meaning, and then it all dies on you, so you have to start from scratch again. And I feel like that's unavoidable. You continuously have to start from scratch again. And obviously, that's a very dramatic example of it, and not really comparable to anything I've experienced personally. But to me, it just seemed like an example that, like, this isn't you do this thing once and it works forever. It's you need to constantly reapply it because terrible things will continue to happen to you, inevitably. Yeah.
But how is that better than the person who's like hanging on to the date that they're going to be freed by or something? Like you're just prolonging the period over which you're able to cope with something rather than actually finding a meaningful or like permanent, well not permanent, but like a way that you can, it doesn't sound cyclical, right? Like if you tie yourself to one meaning,
Yeah.
then you're like, and that meaning disappears, then you're destroyed again, rather than being like, this is something that if I work on incrementally every day, I will be able to weather the storm.
Okay, so that sounds like two separate questions. Because you want to answer them?
Well, not answer.
Okay.
No, I don't recall the details of the book.
Right.
But was there not a distinction made between kind of a internal meanings and external meanings? I don't know what you call it. But like the Stoics make this distinction as well. Sorry?
If there is, I forgot this.
Oh, but the Stoic philosophies make this distinction as well, that there are like external things over which you have no control that you can basically like hang the hat of your meaning on that, and that can be taken away from you. You have no control of it, it's at the whims of fate. But there's internal meanings, for example, like love. You can love someone even if they're not there. You can love their memory, you can love you can do something out of love for them, and that can be meaningful, but it doesn't require their continued existence, because they still exist in a form within inside of you. You have control over that, actually.
The building is closed, and this room's not booked.
This one was booked until 9:30.
And not on my sheets.
Okay, I can show you the confirmation.
Okay.
We're just talking to me, like.
Well, I just thought that might be a...
Yeah, I was thinking about the same thing. What types of meanings can you find that are more long-lasting? And I feel like the internal ones are potentially much more resilient.